Alright guys, I have not worked or rode my bike tweaker in a long time, and one of the main reasons is because the rear wheel broke. The mag wheel that I normally run, you guys know I had to put bearings and races into the actual wheel. Well, this one I actually wore the race out. It cracked. So you see that crack like right there? The wheel cracked, and if you look, you can actually see the light bouncing. So the bearings ended up falling out. So I have to get this out and put a new one in. But first I gotta get it out, and that's proving to be much harder than you would think. But after all the miles I've ridden on this wheel, I guess it's not that surprising. So let's try to get this out. It's not moving at all.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
This thing is in there good.
Yeah.
How do we get that out, Gunner? Daddy put it in there and it really stuck in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay guys, so I got it out. It really did fit in there good. This thing was very hard to get out. So originally when I did this, I put little tiger stripes around it. You see right there and right there, there and there. All that was to help hold it in place, and boy, was it held in place. But on the outside, you could see all the way around. It's cracking. That's not from me hitting it to get it out. That is from being worn out, and that's why the bearings fell out. So I need to get another race, and I need to JB weld it in, and we need to clean this out. Okay, so I got this all the way out, and I pretty much got this clean. Both sides seem to be pretty good. It's fairly clean. Most people would definitely at this point probably say the wheel is junk, throw it out. But you know, I have way too many miles on this to give up now. I mean, it's just getting broken in. Not really, it's pretty much trashed, but I am cheap and refuse to do that. So, okay, I never had no 12 gauge spokes or 10 gauge spoked wheels, but I am a firm believer that the 3-spoke mag, which is what I got on Jokester, is a super solid wheel. This wheel, I would guess, has somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 to 20,000 miles on it, no doubt. And at least 17,000, almost none of it was out of stock form. Almost all of it was with my spoked wheel races JB welded into the hub. Now, I'm going to do the same thing again. So I just took a set of wheels out of my collection of junk wheels and took them apart. I had no idea that there was this much difference in the races. Now, you can see for sure the one I want to use is definitely more shallow, which is fine. But most importantly, look how thick the metal is. Huge difference in thickness. But this is 100% way more thick than the old one. So we're going to use these. Problem is it doesn't fit in here snug. It's actually a tight fit, where meaning it doesn't fit at all. So I'm going to have to waller this out so that this fits in there. I'm not gonna lie, it does make me slightly nervous to do that, but if I ruin it, I ruin it. Now, looking at it, there is a small lip. So if I waller this out so that the lip is gone, so that this will fit in there, that will not only let it fit in there, but it will also give me a slight cushion around the whole thing to have JB weld around the whole thing. Now, it won't be as dramatic as this because the other side is a much larger area for the race to fit in. So you can see it's much bigger. Now I'm going to start with this side to measure the other side. That's how I did it last time. So you can see we have new epoxy in the hub. I used front wheel races out of front wheel hub. This is the hub. This is after I put the races in and the epoxy has dried, and I now have to go in, clean out the races. I think I'm going to convert this completely to a rotor setup. I do have the sprocket, I do have the rotor, I do have the adapter, and I do have the ability to do it. So I think I'm going to do it. Now, before we get to that step though, we have to take this step. So this is where we're at. I can't get an axle through that. That is literally impossible. So most of this will clean out really simple, if I'm being honest. The hardest part is going to be the center. I'm just going to drill it out, and then I'm going to use my Dremel to clean it from there on out. So, well, this is an upgrade for this, and we are not going to fit. So I definitely got to put a smaller sprocket on, hence the 36. All right, so I am cutting my new 36 tooth sprocket out for the original hub adapter. All right, we're doing pretty good. We got the holes drilled out on this so that the screws fit through like that. And we got this remounted up. I am going with a 36 tooth. So let me finish putting this all together, and I'll be back. All right, looks pretty good. Well, I am on my way outside right now to put it on tweaker. It has been maybe 4 or 5 months since this wheel has been on tweaker because I've been slacking on trying to fix those races, but it looks good. Now we're not going to hook up the brakes for now. We're going to run with the stock side pull brakes because to make the new actual rotor brakes work, I have to build a new rack, and I'm just not going to do that today. I have to get the metal that I need to do it, and I will do that soon. But for now, everything is on, and all I got to do then at that point is build the rack, attach the caliper, and we're done. So for now, we'll just use the rim brakes, and the front already has the rotor hooked up, and the brakes are really good on that, so not stressing it. But let's get this on and test her out. Okay guys, so we are basically just doing a continuation, but started off really not recording anything on this, and we are now, Thunder, please don't do that. We are now recording because it has got way more involved than it originally was supposed to be. Of course, you know, I saw that bright shiny rabbit again. I'm off and chasing it. So, what we're doing is a bunch of insanity. But what it basically comes down to is I redid the whole rear wheel, as you guys saw. And the reason I had to do that is because the wheel that was on here was completely destroyed by none other than our good friend Bear. So Bear destroyed the wheel, and he destroyed my tire to go with it. So basically what happened is it must have broke a spoke at one point, and he was riding it and kept riding it, and then the drive chain chewed into my very expensive tire. Well, I mean, expensive to me, and completely destroyed the sidewall of the tire because he kept riding it. And then after that happened, he kept riding it without telling me any of this was going on while he was borrowing my bike, and then decided to destroy everything because at that point the wheel completely disformed and chewed up the chain and got all mangled up with everything, therefore destroying the rim and the tire and everything else back here, including the derailleur and what have you. Now, I have for a long time have been wanting to put rotor brakes on this bike. Basically since I built the bike, I've been wanting to do that. So I finally bit the bullet a long while ago, and I put the other shocks I had for tweaker, and the front shocks have a... Guys, no, we're not taking all of Daddy's tools out of the tool bag so that we can go dig in the dirt with them. Okay, please, do not do anything that you're planning on doing. Take a flathead and dig with that. You want a screwdriver to dig with? Take that. Get away from me now. Go, get out of here, get out of here. And I've been wanting to do the upgrade to the rear, and I just haven't done it because it's very involved. It's been great having the rotored brakes on the front, and I've been wanting to put the rotored brakes on the back, but it is extremely involved on a bike like this or like Jokester. You saw I recently just redid the rack on that to accommodate for the caliper so that it's secure enough to hold it, because I had the whole debacle when I first built the bike with something that wasn't up to par for basically trying to stop a bike that heavy, of that speed, and someone of my size on it. It's just not feasible. It needs to be super strong. So that's what we're running into here. So originally what I was going to do is I was just going to throw the original wheel on like I did. You see it, it's on here, and have the rotors on there, and when I'm ready, I'll start doing all that. Well, one thing led to another, and to get this on, because of the rotor and the way this frame is never meant for a 220 mil rotor in the rear, it's very close to the frame. So to get it fit properly without having to spread the frame apart more, which won't necessarily fix it anyway, I need to have it as far back in the dropouts as possible, and the only way I can have it far back in the dropouts is if I move the derailleur. This doesn't have the eyelet to hold the derailleur. It needs to have a separate little special nut and bolt that holds it, that sits in the dropouts. Well, that makes the axle sit much farther forward in the dropouts, causing the rotor to get very close to the frame. So what I did is I then took that bolt out, which was already missing anyway because Bear had lost it when he destroyed everything and the derailleur came flying off and whatnot. So to make that work, I basically just welded it right to the frame. I didn't want to drill through the dropouts like I did on Jokester. It's not the same kind of metal, plus it's just not as much material to work with. So if I was to drill through, even with a small screw to hold the derailleur in place at all times, even when I have the axle nut off, it would just be too flimsy in my opinion. So I didn't want to take the chance. So I just welded it. Since it's steel, I was like, screw it, we'll just weld it right to it. And that's what I did. If I ever need to replace it, it's not a big deal. Nothing more than a quick angle grinder, break off the tack welds, and you're good to go. So I welded the derailleur onto the frame, so we're secure now. Now, after that was done, I used, there's little eyelets on the frame to hold a bike rack. And that's what I used to hold up the bike rack on Tweaker. Now, the problem with that is those little eyelets are really close to where the derailleur needs to be and also where the nut needs to be for the axle. And then my hitch that I'm going to have to put on the bike when I do decide to tow with it, I need to keep that in consideration also. So what this all basically comes down to is I was going to keep it simple and just run the rear brakes that I've been running for a long time, the rim brakes, and do all of this later. Well, to even get the wheel on, because of everything I recently just did to it, with the rack that is on there, I basically have to mod the rack just to keep it in the basic location that it's at. At that point, I'm already doing a lot of the work to make it work. So I'm like, screw it, we're just going to take the rack completely off. We're gonna rebuild a new rack and put another rack on here to support everything in the way it needs to be. Since we're doing all of this work, I'm going to make it nicer, obviously. I'm gonna change a couple things on the way I think it should be, and I'm gonna get it ready to accept a bracket for the rotored brake. So I have somewhere to put the caliper on. Something similar to what I did with Jokester. I am so happy with the way that turned out. I'm basically going to duplicate that in a lot of ways. The only issue is I don't have that metal anymore. I only had a limited amount of metal and I don't have it. I'm not going to buy more of it because who spends money on anything? That's just silly to me. So I'm not going to spend any money on it. What I did do is I ran into my buddy yesterday at work. He's a scrapper and he always has random pieces of metal in the back of his truck, and I ran into him at the Walmart and I was like, yo, you got any aluminum in the back of your truck? And he did. It's over there. I'll show you in a little bit what we got, but I got a couple big chunks of aluminum that should work, and one of them I think is super cool and is going to make a really cool looking look to the rack, and we're going to try to use that and the other one for bits and pieces here as needed. But nonetheless, what we got to do now is we got to take the rack completely off, disconnect the gas, everything, and basically start fresh. So this is some of the metal that I got from my buddy. I don't know what this is. It looks like extruded. Metal kind of, it's aluminum. This is solid up here. It's some kind of threaded hole. I really have no idea what this would have been used for. I mean, it's an impressive piece of kit basically for whatever it was. I have no idea what it was used for though. We are back on Tweaker. We're going to do our very, very best to get this done today. The hardest bits and pieces are finished, I believe. I guess there is another harder piece, technically, the part that would be actually hooking up the brakes and making the actual mount for the caliper, which, to be honest, I have not even brought out yet. I haven't even looked at the mount or anything because I can't do anything with it anyway until we get the uprights on. So, yesterday I finished the uprights for the most part. So this is what we did for the uprights. Two mirrored images. The one for the right side is slightly bigger here. It's this one, slightly larger, but that's okay. I basically made a mirror image so that one fits over there, one fits here. So the way it fits is pretty straightforward. It just fits on there like so, and then the other one will be on the other side. Okay, so basically they're just going to go on just like this. They're the right height, 13.5 inches. I went an extra 1/4 inch up so that I had that little bit of space for the, whatever that thing's called, the mud flap. Now, I have the holes already drilled in both uprights. All we have to do is drill through the frame itself. You guys got to get over here and look. This was the main thing that was so hard for me to do, if I'm being honest, but see this bump out here? I have that so it fits in here, so that all the weight on the basket, even though it's not going to be that much weight, it's not just on the bolt. Okay, I didn't want to have everything sitting on the bolt. I wanted to have this sitting on the frame and then bolted to the frame, so that the frame is basically holding it to the bike, but the frame is supporting this, not the bolt. So that was very important to me. So that's why I left this bump out. It doesn't interfere with anything. It's nice and good, snug, and I think it adds a lot of security and sturdiness. Once I get the distance apart and everything that I need, I can then work on the rest of the rack up here on how it's going to be to hold the basket and whatnot. Now, the entire life of Tweaker, I have had the basket in line with the frame and the seat, more sleek. And on Jokester, I have it the other way. Basically, I did that because it gave me a little more room behind my back and butt to have space so that I could, you know, just fit more comfortably on the bike. And I really do like that. It also keeps the weight less off the back of the axle. It keeps it more centered over the wheel, which in the long run of it is a big deal. So we drilled it, got the hole, boom, she fits perfect. I gotta grind down the nuts so that they slide in the channel. They should slide down this channel right to where the bolt is, right here, and I'll screw it in from the other side. I gotta grind down the nuts. They don't fit in here. I'm sure there's probably a particular, you know, bespoke nut or attachment system that went with whatever this was for, but we're gonna use it with our nuts that I got. I got grade 8 nuts, grade 8 bolts, because I really want to make sure that the two things that are holding the entire rack up is holding it to the frame very strong. The metal itself is just going to be attached to the frame with the bolt. Without this nut here, or without this bolt, look, I'm taking the bolt out, you can see it's still there. Now it moves, yes, but it's resting here and up here. The bolt, if I can get it back in now, all that is going to be doing is holding it to the actual frame so that it doesn't move. The weight of the basket will be getting held up by the frame itself, the top and bottom tube. I made the shape so that I could do it like that. That was a very big deal for me. Nonetheless, I think we're doing really, really great, and we're really close. Cross threads are better than no threads. That seems pretty great, guys. And she's sturdy. I'm happy with that. I mean, it looks pretty square, pretty plumb. It looks straight up and down. I'm very happy with that. So the bike is straight up and down. You can see that is straight up and down. So that's good. I'm happy with that. No wiggles, no movement. It's sturdy. I was thinking about just leaving it like this because then I don't have to rebuild this thing. And I was thinking, hey, let's just toss it in like this and bolt it right up like that, and we're basically good to go again. But I don't know. It's kind of cheesy to me and the easy way out. I think what is better is if you put it over top of this, that makes this look so much cleaner. It's going to be a really nice little setup, I think, when it's all said and done. It's going to be very clean. I like this little aluminum. It's a little harder to work with, coming up with an idea on how to make this round tube work, but when it's all said and done, it's really looking cool, and it's definitely very unique. Alright guys, I figured I'm going to bring you in and just show you a little bit about what we're doing here and how it's looking. So I had the main support in, I'm pretty sure you saw that. I got an extra nut in there right now, because you got to put these in before you start, you know, tightening everything down. Either because it can't go in here because that's the channel I'm using for the nut. It holds everything up, and the nut is going here to hold the main support up. So I have one in here. This is going to go right behind this. I still got to run the bracket here, I'm pretty sure I have enough angle here to be able to have everything out of the way enough for that side. Okay guys, so I got the right side of the rack done. It is looking killer, you know, as far as racks go. But the main thing to take care of here is I got to do the left side of the rack. So once the left side's done, everything is finished on the rack. I'm not painting anything until spring or summer when it warms up. But that means we can put the basket on, we can put the fuel tank on, we can run the fuel lines, and we can actually start this thing up and run it. All right guys, so that is it. This is the finished product of the rack. You can see it. I connected it up top just like I used to have it. I really like that connection. It's an old seat post clamp. The main support I widened this with this weird shaped tube, whatever it was. It came out great. Everything is super solid. I'm hitting it hard. There's no wiggles. It moves the whole bike real easily. I ran the line out all the way up and tucked it in real nice there. It just came out really good. I still got to attach the fender, but that's not really a big deal. It's got one main bolt point like you saw, and that's it. That's how it attaches. But with the way I have it cut out to fit, it is so secure. I have done quite a bit of riding with this. Boy, it's really hard to get a look-see on it, isn't it? With it, how it's connected to and holding on the frame, and then this bolt only holds it to the frame. It's super secure. You can see, here's a down shot, the tire sticks out. So this does not stick out even as far as the entire tire. So it is not completely centralized over the axle, but the thing is now where it connects and the actual weight of it is this part of the dropout, putting the weight, the majority of the weight, in front of the axle. So the frame is holding more of the weight of the basket than before. So everything came out good. It tracked super straight. Basically, I really like my new rack. It's very similar to Jokester's rack. I still have to make some kind of a mount like this to hold the caliper. The weather's only starting to get nice now, so I'm gonna do that soon. Something to come up here, just like I have on Jokester, and I'll try to make it out of this to hold the actual rotor. We'll see if I can or not. It's very difficult to work with this, but once I made it work, I think it really came out nice and looks really sharp. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed how the rack came out and seeing me make it. It was pretty involved, and redoing the races in this wheel was also extremely involved, but it all worked out good. Works well, rolls well, keeps straight, and can bring me and whatever I choose to go with me home. So, all right guys, till the next one, I guess I'll check you in the next one. I'll see you then, all right? Make sure you hit the like, hit the subscribe, and in the description, there's links to everything in the description. Feel free to go down there, check out those links, and join up the Facebook group chat. Love to have you in there. So I guess I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.